Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
My name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, I have a question. Jeff, how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, it's October. It's my favorite month of the year.
That's true.
I had my wedding anniversary last week. So I made some delicious food for that. I posted about it on our Dinner Party Conflict channel on our Discord.
Yeah, I keep meaning to document more of my meals for our Dinner Party Conflict. Yeah, I think that channel more than any other I actually participate in.
Sure.
I was just like, oh yeah, I could talk about food.
Yeah. I've also been, by the time this episode goes out, it'll be closer to the end of the month than the beginning, but I've been watching a horror movie every I was about to say every year, horror movie every day for the whole month.
Yeah.
I've done this the last few years. I watch a movie and then I write a lengthy review on it. And,
I'll be honest. I don't always read the whole review, but I always try to check in on it though. Just be like, okay, so what does he think of this one? Okay,
sure.
Okay. He generally likes this one. All right, good. So,
well, Jeff, I have a little bit of news about our podcast that I think is pretty cool.
Oh yeah. Is this the first time I'm hearing it?
I think so because I just noticed this just recently. So, guess how many listens our podcast has had altogether?
Just like on SoundCloud?
Sure, yeah. I don't know whether SoundCloud... I'm assuming SoundCloud includes iTunes. I'm pretty sure that is the case.
Oh.
Whatever the case, it's the number, like our total number of listens on SoundCloud.
Hold on. Now I want to look it up myself.
I don't know. I don't know if it'll let you see if you're not logged in, but...
Oh, you might be right.
100,000.
100,000?
100,000. Now, keep in mind, we've got, a couple hundred episodes, and that doesn't mean that people have listened to an entire, each listen is an entire episode.
Right.
But, yeah. Well, it's closer to 103,000. I saw it was coming up a couple months ago, and I've been sort of keeping an eye on it, but I guess I must have missed it by a couple weeks. So, yeah, over the last, almost 4 years, 102.8 thousand. No, that's not. Over 100,000 listens.
100,000. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of listens, but then I got to remember, you got to think because I think SoundCloud, if I weren't to just click the play button 4 times on one of our episodes, that would count everyone.
Probably. Yeah. I don't know. And I mean, for all I know, 60,000 of these are me.
Well, yeah. But, not today, I feel like at this point we're getting I was thinking around 200, but so these are looking more like 300-400 listens.
Yeah. On average, we get between 300 and 400 listens per episode.
Yeah.
We have a couple episodes here and there that are maybe double that, but
I got one that's 900 here. Don't know what happened there. And that one's this one's almost 900. This one's 1,900. What?
Yeah, I don't know. Those are just, as far as I can tell, those are just random episodes.
But 100,000, woo!
100,000 plays. That's pretty cool.
That's that's pretty neat.
Yeah. I mean, we put out almost 200 episodes, so
it's 500 per episode. That sounds about right. Yeah, that sounds about right because we are getting up to 300-400 per episode, and then we do have those few odd ones that get more.
Yeah. So I guess all you listeners out there, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know what this means.
All 100,000 of you listeners out there.
Right. Oddly enough, I think we actually got the most listens in 2018 because it looks like I have a little graph on my computer. It looks like it's going down since then. So,
well,
I guess goodbye, listeners. I don't know. So yeah, just a neat little thing I thought I would mention. It's worthy of note. We also have another little milestone coming up involving our questions. That'll probably come up in maybe 5 or 6 episodes or something. So
okay, cool.
Stay tuned for that.
So I'm looking at the InterPartyConflict site on SoundCloud here.
Okay.
And we got over 100 followers here, and I don't think we've ever really told people to hey, follow us on stuff.
I didn't know that was a thing until you just mentioned it just now. Well, I guess sorry, I know it's a thing because people do follow us on on SoundCloud, and I do usually follow them back, but I don't commit it to memory because I don't even know what those are or what it actually means.
Well, yeah, because like you always like if you're watching a YouTube channel, like odds are you're going to hear the call to action, like please like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah.
And like we do direct everybody to the Patreon, and we appreciate all the people who have gone to that. But I mean, like, if you're listening to us, and you're listening to us on something like SoundCloud or whatever, and there is a follow option, please click that.
Yeah, we'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, please click that. Or like use the share option or whatever. If you want to. I don't know. I feel like there are a few little extra things that we could do to help us out as far as like the algorithm works in different different mediums or different websites.
Yeah.
But we do appreciate every listen.
Yeah, just a blanket statement to everybody out there. Thank you for listening. Even if you're just listening to this episode, even if you're about to turn the episode off in 10 seconds, please don't. But, thank you for at least listening to what has gone. Oh, they're already gone.
Yeah, too late. Too late. Gone. Okay.
Yeah, so big thank you to everybody out there. You guys are awesome. Without you, there wouldn't be a show, I guess.
Yeah.
So. All right, you want to go ahead and, speaking of the show, you want to go ahead and jump into this episode?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. I want you to imagine, Jeff, that your neighbor is having a masquerade party. Let's assume this is 2019, pre-quarantine days. You don't have to worry about any sort of whatever. You're invited to a masquerade party, and it's
well, we are wearing masks.
Okay. Good point.
It's outdoors. People are evenly spaced, and we're all wearing masks anyway.
Sure. Yeah. Better to tackle the problem appropriately rather than simply avoid it by going back in time. So you're at this garden party. It's a masquerade party, and I'll say it's also a birthday party. So you're expected to bring a gift or something.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to this party. You see your friend's over there telling some story, waving his arms around, hitting the top branches of a tree as he does so. And he sees you as you come up, and he sees you've got a present in your hand. And he says, oh, hey, Jeff, go throw the present over with the rest of them. And then he points towards, there's a door near you. And you see there's a sign over that door telling you where you're supposed to go throw the present. And do you know what that sign says?
Oh, what does it say, Gabe?
It says, throw your presents on the dragon's hoard. Because your neighbor's a dragon. If this is your first episode, the joke is that Jeff's neighbor is a dragon. So
now I got the idea of like a dragon housewarming party, and people are like throwing gifts in a pile, and like that's how the dragon gets its first like pile of gold when it moves into the new neighborhood.
That's canon, everybody.
So that's how a dragon horde starts. Is they throw a housewarming party.
Yep.
There's some joke in there about warming party and fire, flaming breath.
If it's a white dragon, it's a house colding party.
Okay. All right.
All right. So today's magic item was submitted by Dustin via Discord, and it is the Ocularium Vitalis. This is a legendary artifact, and there is an author's note at the end of this that I'll mention now. Dustin says, credit for the idea must be given to my fiance, Sherry. I merely gamified it.
Okay.
So today's magic item was submitted by Sherry via Discord. And so
Sherry via Dustin via Discord.
Right. So yeah, this is a legendary artifact, and there's a quote at the top: lying about one's age and stealing from the lesser classes is just a way of life for the aristocracy. This masquerade mask is hewn from a single piece of crystal, lined in gold filigree and backed with the finest black velvet. Light is refracted through it, creating a kaleidoscopic rainbow of color. Donning the mask grants the wearer advantage on all charisma-based skills. In addition, the mask has the ability to steal life force from anyone within line of sight.
Ooh.
Every week, the mask builds up a charge of 2.5%. This can be discharged to steal 2.5% of a person's remaining lifespan. For example, if a person has 100 expected years of life remaining, the mask would steal 2.5 years of life. This life force is added onto the lifespan of the wearer. The charge can also be stored to use later. After 10 weeks, 25% charge will be accrued. After 40 weeks, the mask will max out at 100%. Using a full charge will instantly kill the target.
Woof.
Yes. To activate the mask's power, the wearer must see the target and speak the target's true name, followed by the activation phrase, "Grant your life to me." The wearer must use all of the mask's current charge. The mask flares with light as the transfer takes place. The mask then requires a week to charge. Each time the mask is used, the user must roll D% dice. If they roll below the percentile stolen, the act is felt by the target. Otherwise, I'm guessing they wouldn't know it happened. It just happened.
Gotcha.
Due to the obvious light flare during the mask's use, any target who feels the theft will easily understand the source of their pain and will act accordingly. Previous users of the mask tended to target species with long lives, such as elves. It has led to several uprisings. So that's this item. I think this is a kind of a horrifying item.
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
Yeah.
Oh, at the beginning of this, it reminded me of something, and now I can't remember what that was.
It definitely reminds me of I think I've talked about it in a previous episode, the anime, manga, and movie Death Note.
Oh, sure.
For anybody not familiar, it started out as a manga and then an anime, and there's a Japanese movie and then a Netflix movie. Don't watch the Netflix movie; it's real bad. But it's about this high school student, this like brilliant genius high school student who finds this magical book created by a god of death that if you write someone's name in it, that person dies.
Yeah.
And then he tries to use it to make the world a better place, but he ends up becoming a villain in his own right by killing all these people and so on. But there is a part of the story where you can make a deal with the god of death to give up half of your remaining lifespan, and if you do so, you gain these special eyes that let you see a person's name, which lets you easily put their name into the book. And also it tells you how much more life a person has. So you can see, that person's got, 50 years left. And then you could write them in the book and kill them if you wanted to. There's also another weird little wrinkle in the story that whenever a god of death, a Shinigami is what they're called, whenever they use one of these books to kill a person, the person's lifespan is added to themselves. It doesn't work that way if a human does it, just if the Shinigami does. However, if a Shinigami kills someone in order to save someone else's life, the Shinigami themselves die, and then their lifespan is added to the person that they saved. So I see similar, I doubt that this was necessarily inspired by Death Note. They might have been both inspired by the same thing,
What it reminded me of was the machine from Princess Bride.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Or he's like, it's instead of sucking water, I'm sucking life.
Yeah.
I just stole 2.5 years of your life away or whatever.
Yeah. And so with this item, I think one criticism I would have is that the mechanics are a little weird. The 2.5% buildup every week or whatever. It's a little weird. Not saying that it can't be that way, but
yeah, I agree. Like, I feel like the mechanics themselves could be adjusted.
Sure.
And depending on the system you're using it for too. So
yeah, I would be curious as to whether there is some sort of a save against this, a saving throw.
Right.
If not, that's fine. It is a legendary artifact. I can get on board with that, but it should just say, with no chance of, with no chance of resistance or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. It's this item it's pretty terrifying. I think that it's, definitely very evocative. I like the theming. I don't know. I don't really have much else to say. I think it's a really cool item. It's a solid item. Again, some slight changes to the mechanics, but it's great.
Yeah. No, I like it a lot. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
I was just trying to think of always trying to find ways that maybe, if players got a hold of something like this, what they would do with it, if there is a way to cheat the system a bit with it.
Sure.
I guess you could always steal years of life off of a bad guy or something and not feel too terrible about it.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, then again, like, lifespan rarely comes into play.
That's definitely true.
For the players at the very least, but this could be something that a villain has that, like, it's a villain that's been around for a very, very, very long time because they've been stealing life from everybody.
Sure.
And so you can have, you can find that among the villain's, possessions.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great way to do it. I've been watching the Amazon Prime series, The Boys. And not to give any spoilers, I mean, I'll say that it's fantastic. The second season just finished, and it is very, very, very good. But there is a villain in the second series that you end up finding out this villain is actually much older than you think they are. And so the idea that this person has been around for, several decades longer than it looks like they have is definitely a very terrifying thing to learn. So if you did have a villain that you gave this to the villain as part of their backstory, and then it is revealed at some point in the campaign, they're like, oh no, they've actually been around for centuries. Maybe they're a human, but like that, their great-great-grandfather that, like, I don't know, led some war or whatever, that was actually them. They just faked their death. They've been around this whole time, always been in power.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think this is a really cool item. A lot of role-playing potential, a lot of story potential, and again, it is terrifying. The idea to just be able to look at someone, and even without them knowing, if you roll under the percentile or whatever the mechanics are, if you can steal 10 years of their life and they don't even know it, that's horrifying.
Ooh, Gabe.
What?
What if somebody used this on a deity? Like somebody who is immortal, but they had 100% charge on it and used it on a deity. Do they themselves become a deity?
I think that the cheap answer would be to say it doesn't work on immortals.
Sure.
But what if it did?
What if it did?
Yeah,
I don't know.
And what if it's even like, no, you just use the 2.5%. You just use 1 week's charge. Now you are also immortal because 2.5% of infinity is still infinity.
Right. Yep. So can I just borrow 1% of your life, please? And they're like, sure, I got plenty of it.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a great idea. That blew my mind just now, Jeff. Good job.
But what if its thing is that it is meant to be used on deities, and it's actually an artifact that is a way for someone to absorb the powers of a deity.
Okay.
But if you're using it on mortals, all you're getting is their lifespan. Like, sure. That's it. You're just getting more life. Big deal. But what you're supposed to be using on is like you come across a deity of some sort and you take all of their life force and now you have all of their power.
Yeah. That's awesome.
All right. Well, thank you, Dustin.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you, Sherry. Yes. So once again, that was the Ocularium Vitalis submitted by Sherry via Dustin via Discord.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you to them. Jeff, if anybody else wanted to submit magic items for the Dragon's Horde, or if they wanted to submit questions for us to discuss, or stories for the funeral pyre or retirement village, how would they get those to us?
They can send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com or join us on our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord.
Yes, that is correct. And if any of you are having issues connecting to the Discord, please let us know. We've heard of some people having issues, and I'm still trying to figure out what causes that. So yeah, please get in touch with us.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then before we go any further, we do have a giveaway or two to give away today. So first off, we're giving away a copy of Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 2, courtesy of Crit Academy. Crit Academy is a great podcast, and one of their segments is the Unearthed Tips and Tricks. And the Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 2 supplement is a collection of 25 of their character concepts, encounter concepts, monster variants, magic items, player tips, and DM tips. Tons of content, tons of cool stuff for players and DMs alike that I helped them compile and write up together. So they're giving away a free copy of this awesome supplement. Who is the winner this week?
This week's winner is Michael R.
Winner. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Yes, congratulations, Michael R. You should be getting that in your email pretty soon. If you don't, let us know. But then whenever you do get it, please be sure to leave Crit Academy a review. The more reviews they get, the more attention they get, the more they know how to make better products in the future, and so on. So, big thank you to them. Thank you to Michael R. for entering. Jeff, if anybody else wanted to enter this drawing and be like Michael R. and win a copy of this free supplement, how would they do so?
They could send us an email at InterPartyConflict@gmail.com with Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 2 in the subject line.
Yes, be sure to put that Volume 2 in there or it will go to the wrong folder. And then next up, we have our October-only giveaway. And this giveaway is for Strahd's Manual of Shadow, a supplement also on DM's Guild from our listener, Seawood Scribe. It's a great supplement. It's got classes. It's got races. It's got monsters. It's got magic items. It's got a ton of stuff. It's like 200 pages worth of content, all spooky, all creepy, great stuff, perfectly themed for Halloween.
Yeah. I'm enjoying a lot of the character options in there. Pretty good.
Yeah, it's really cool. So who is our winner of Strahd's Manual of Shadow today?
Gabe, by spooky coincidence, it is Michael R.
Yes, it is Michael R.
Whoa, winner!
Congratulations, Michael R. You've gotten both of them today. Good job.
Woo!
So you should be getting both of these in your email pretty soon. Again, if you don't get either of them, let us know. And similarly, please leave Seawood Scribe a review on DM's Guild or DriveThruRPG or wherever. Please leave a review on there as well, because again, the more attention they get, the more responses they get, the more they know how to make better things in the future. So huge thank you to Seawood Scribe. Thank you again to Michael R. for entering. And then once again, if somebody wants to win Strahd's Manual of Shadow, time's running out. But if they did want to win a copy of this, Jeff, how would they enter this drawing?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com with Strahd's Manual of Shadow in the subject line.
Yes, Strahd's Manual of Shadow, or Strahd, or Shadow, or something that indicates that that's what you're trying to get.
Manual of the Shroud, Strahd, Shadow.
So good job, Michael R. on both accounts. Thank you,
Tome of Shadow.
Thank you, Seawood Scribe. Thank you, Crit Academy. Thanks to everybody for entering.
Spooky book.
Big thank you to all of our wonderful patrons. We have a Patreon at patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. We've got some cool rewards on there on various tiers. If you support us with $1 a month, you get some outtakes. You get all the fantasy fiction I've written in the past. You get the audio versions I'm making as well. Back us at $5, you get our monthly bonus podcast that we do. This month we haven't recorded it yet as of this recording, but hopefully we're going to have another spooky actual play similar to what we did last October. And then on the top tier, on the $10 tier, you can join our monthly Roll20 game. The day after we record this, we're going to be doing that one for October, and we're going to be finishing up our Dawn of Worlds game. So last week we gushed about Dawn of Worlds for a very, very long time. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
So big thank you to everybody who has donated to us in these difficult times. We understand times are tough. We super appreciate it. We wouldn't blame anybody for canceling their contribution, but we appreciate the people that have not. So thank you all. You guys are awesome. And then just one more quick thing. Check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Check out Crit Academy. I already mentioned them. They're at critacademy.com. Check out Brute Force and Ignorance. They are an actual play podcast. And check out D&D Character Lab, where Garen and Dan made characters and debated whose characters were better. Enough of all that. Let's get into some questions, Jeff.
Our first question comes from Strawman DM on Reddit. And they ask, what should I do if I don't like the changes Wizards of the Coast is making to races and alignment? Yeah.
So a big, I guess two disclaimers, one big, one small. I'll do the small one first. Small one, this isn't super current. This happened a few months ago, and a lot of people were up in arms for a couple months. There probably are still people that are up in arms about it, but we figured we would weigh in. The bigger disclaimer is that I myself am a straight white male in my 30s.
And I also am a straight white male in my 30s.
Yes. So take our opinions with whatever grain of salt is necessary. We are going to be weighing in on some things that, there is a lot of controversy about. Some would call it political. Some would call it not.
Yeah.
So, we will try our best to, give the best kind of viewpoints we have.
Right. I mean, and like we're giving our viewpoints as a D&D player and a D&D DM.
Yes.
Like, like we do not have the perspective needed for much more than that. Like,
Correct.
So that's all we really want to say is like, we're not going to say anything too profound, but we hope we're not going to say anything too stupid.
Yeah. And like we generally try not to make any sort of like political statements on this podcast.
Yeah.
So
I mean, this is gonna tread pretty close, and there's not really much we can do about that.
Sure.
But yeah.
But as Jeff said, we're trying to approach this not as not from a political standpoint, but just from where people play the game, and this is our thoughts on how it should affect the game and how it does affect the game.
Yeah. So. Yeah. There are countless better sources for topics of race in general and stuff that you should go listen to instead of us.
I guess if I can, I'll actually try to see if I can find some responses from better people than ourselves and put those in the show notes. So,
yeah, that's fair.
So keep an eye out, I guess. So yeah, a few months ago, I think in June 2020, Wizards of the Coast announced that they were going to be making some changes in the future to the more I looked into this, the more I was like, why are people upset about this? Because the changes are actually very slight.
Yeah, they're very nothing.
Yeah, the changes that they're going to be making primarily boil down to certain races.
Not to discredit Wizards for, like, they're at least doing something.
Sure. Yeah. I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong. Just like,
yeah.
I don't understand why this is something worth getting upset about, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into that, and it's gonna get slightly political.
Sure.
But we'll get to that.
Yeah. So the changes boil down to certain player races, but also non-player races, just races in general. Yeah. Certain races of characters in Dungeons and Dragons, in previous editions and even in 5th edition, had stat adjustments such as -2 to intelligence. Like in 3rd edition D&D, for example. If you played a half-orc, you had a -2 to intelligence and charisma. Dwarves had a -2 to charisma. I don't think there were any others in the core books that had a penalty to intelligence. But, with Savage Species and such, you could play a ton of different races that did have penalties and bonuses and such to intelligence, to wisdom, to charisma, and so on, implying that certain races are unintelligent or are stupid by default.
Right.
So that's one of the changes, is that they are removing that. In 5th edition, to be fair, in 5th edition, I don't think any of the core book races had penalties to anything. I'm pretty sure all of the stat adjustments were increases.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure, at least for the core races.
Yeah, it's mainly in like Xanathar's Guide to Everything, I think, had wherever orcs as a playable race were. Orcs, I do believe, had a -2 to intelligence.
Was that Volos?
Maybe it was Volos.
Maybe it was Volos, but yeah. Yep, I think you're right.
So that's one of the changes they're making. So there are no longer any penalties to mental stats like intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Then they're also going to be making some other changes to stats, but we'll get to that later. And then another change that they made is that, again, certain races, such as orcs, such as drow, mainly in previous editions, but again, still in 5th edition, some of them were listed as being particularly savage or always evil, and so on. And as a result, these were common to be found as enemies, because it's like, oh, I need the party to encounter a bunch of humanoid enemies. I'll just throw some orcs in there. Everybody knows orcs are evil. Everybody knows orcs are unintelligent and they'll just attack you on sight. So let's just fight these orcs.
Yeah.
And I think that's how a lot of people use them. Myself included, I've used orcs that way.
Sure.
So a lot of people, when hearing these changes that Wizards of the Coast was making, got very upset. And so I think we can talk about some of the reasons why we think people are upset about these things. But the question is, what should I do if I don't like these changes? So which would you like to tackle first?
I mean, I guess we need to address like why people are getting upset.
Okay.
I can't tell you everything about why people are getting upset. Like I'm sure I could I could jump to some conclusions about some people's.
There are probably a wide range of reasons.
Yes.
So like, again, if one of these does not apply to you, we're not pointing a finger at you and saying you're a bad person.
Right. Yeah.
Just these are some of the reasons why some people are getting upset about this.
Here, I'll give a reason why I think a possible reason that I might have been upset about it.
Okay.
Because I am not upset about it.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
Sure.
And I don't think it really stops anybody from doing anything that they wanted to do in the first place. Like, like it's a game where you're making up your own fantasy. Do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Like these are they're just doing something to kind of. Well, anyway, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So a reason I could see myself getting upset about it is like, oh, but that's just the way things have always been. Like that's sort of like, oh, they're like hating change for the sake of change, for the sake of hating change. Like it's like it's a change to a thing that's been around for a long time. Why are you changing it? Like, why if you were going to change it, why didn't you change it before? It's like, well, now I gotta think about all my stuff all differently now because it's changed and different.
Sure. And hey, I'll raise my hand. That was my initial reaction was like, why does it need to be changed?
Right.
I've realized why it should be changed. I've come around on that, but that was my knee jerk reaction of like, I mean, it's worked for 40 years or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'll get this right out there. It's been that way for 40 years is not a good reason to keep it.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's been wrong for 40 years, it's been wrong for 40 years. I've talked about how like one of the worst DMs I've ever played with justified every bad decision with, I've been playing the game for, in his case, 30 years. I've been playing the game for 30 years. I know what I'm doing. Those are two separate statements. One does not prove the other.
Right.
If it's been done this way for 40 years, that doesn't mean it's right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Doing something wrong for a long time it doesn't suddenly become right.
Yes. And actually, sorry, if I can say one more thing.
Yeah.
That my favorite inspirational quote in the world, my favorite one is, the best time to plant a tree is 30 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is right now.
Right. Yeah.
If you realize you have been doing something wrong for a very long time, it's okay to change it and start doing it right now. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean you shouldn't have changed because you didn't change 10 years ago. No, it would have been great to change 10 years ago, but for whatever reason, if you have the option to change now, go ahead and change now.
Yeah.
Everybody can always improve on themselves. Always.
So yeah, like there are people who are just like they like it's a fantasy. They like that they have this fantasy in their head, this idea of this fantasy world in their head where the orcs are the bad guys, the drow are the bad guys. They're evil and savage and dumb and brutish, and it's like they just have this painted picture in their head of how things are.
Mm-hmm.
When they see like, oh, okay, here come these guys trying to change everything. Like it's a knee jerk reaction of being upset. Like don't touch my fantasy, bro. Like just like I can see myself getting upset for like there have probably been things, not specifically about race, but just there are probably been things where I've been like, why are you changing that? Why do that?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's at least one way. One thing that I could see myself being upset.
And I will say that it makes writing adventures, it makes writing encounters a bit more difficult.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, if you just need an easy villain, an easy bad guy that the players can encounter, immediately know are hostile, kill them, and then move on, and then nobody thinks a second thought, it was very easy to be like, oh yeah, you see some orcs or some drow. And then nobody would bat an eye. That's what the game is. Now, it is more work to then have to think of, okay, how do I still want the players to fight and kill these bad guys and then move on without a second thought. You can still do that. You are encouraged to make the distinction not be, oh, they are this race, therefore all of them are evil and savage. You can put like, oh, they're carrying the banner of this organization that has vowed to kill all humans or whatever.
Right.
There you go. Boom. Yeah. Done.
Yeah. I don't want to get hostile. you know, I don't want to be hostile to anybody, but it's like, it's, if you're so upset about this change because you like being able to just toss in an orc and have them be evil.
Yeah.
You're being lazy.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Like you're being lazy in your storytelling. Tell a better story. Like don't say orcs are evil. You know, find a way to tell the story of why these orcs are evil. Why are these orcs you're putting in this situation right now? Why are they evil?
Exactly.
And that is much more interesting, you know, as a story and as a game. Like if the players aren't going to be assuming that all orcs are evil, it's more interesting to find out why are these ones evil? Like what are they doing? What are their goals? Like why are they going around pillaging? You know, like why are they doing that?
Like if you do just want it to be, okay, they kill the orcs and then they move on. Yeah, you can do that just by having them carry a banner or have some sort of other visual effect that tells the players these are, it's not that all orcs are evil. It's that these orcs are evil. Like these ones have chosen to, you know, kill humans or destroy the world in a fire or whatever. But if you want to then make the encounter more interesting than just that, if you want it to be, oh, maybe the players realize these orcs are being mind controlled by something, then you've got a hook for an additional part of the adventure where they can go and find out who's mind controlling them and put an end to that. And then, you know, they've just saved an entire clan of orcs and then they're heroes or whatever, you know?
Yeah. And that's not to say that you can't have, and like we've talked about this, I'm pretty sure, like that's not to say you can't have elements of racism in your world building.
Sure.
You know, like you could have it be that there are a lot of orcs that are part of this evil group, and then other folk, you know, in your setting see orcs in general as this bad thing, but then, you know, like there can be like racist characters that are racist against orcs in your world.
Sure.
And like, but that could be that could be some conflict that your players have to come across. It's like, okay, we are dealing with a lot of evil orcs here, but we have met some not so evil orcs. You know, maybe we have to maybe there might be some, you know, conflict there that they have to solve. They might have to help out and, you know, relieve some of the tension there.
Sure. A long time ago, I was in a 4th edition campaign. I've talked about my character Artemis Redsleeves before. That campaign that I was in was largely based around just every one of our characters was just it was just an established fact. All of us hate orcs. I don't really know what the DM's intention with that, like if he was intending for us to subvert that, have that expectation be subverted or something, but that never really came out in the game. In the game, yeah, we just always treated orcs like they were mindless vermin that need to be exterminated. During the campaign, you know, fine, whatever. That's how it played out. But a couple years later, when I started adapting this into a novel, I did kind of have to, even though I don't think that my writing at the time was particularly woke or whatever, but I had to come to terms with the fact that I'm portraying these orcs as through the main character's eyes as being mindless vermin, yet the orcs' actions are that of an intelligent species, and they have emotions, they have language, and so as writing the book went on, I did kind of have the characters start to question whether what they believed about orcs was correct or not. In a long form thing, that can be a goal in and of itself. Now, I never really finished. I finished the first third of it, but I never really got to the point where the characters would really have to grapple with whether their hatred of orcs was appropriate or not. But it can add to a game if you want it to add to a game. Yeah. As you said, Jeff, it is pure laziness to be upset that now you have to justify it in a different way than just saying they're orcs.
Right, because like reading it in the rules and in the book, like they get a -2 to intelligence. Oh, they're dummy, and they're dumb, and like they're or like the stat block always lawful evil or whatever. Whatever it is. like that doesn't change your ability to tell a story. That is just harmful. It's harmful for people's understanding of the like differences in people. I don't know. One thing I want to point out that is race is a construct.
Yes.
Like race isn't actually a biological.
Construct isn't a race.
Gabe.
I'm sorry. You were going on. I'm sorry. Go on.
That's fine. Like in the real world, race is a construct, but you know, in the fantasy world, which is a construct, you know, is fiction. The fantasy world is fiction. Like in this fictional world, there are races. You know, but like in the real world, there aren't really races. Like we're all humans.
Yeah.
And like even in D&D, like humans are humans. Humans are humans are humans. Like there's not really sub races of humans. Like I guess technically they're, you know, in the mechanical sense in 5th edition, I think they're like things are called sub races, or maybe it's like variant I'm thinking of.
Yeah, there are variants I remember in Pathfinder, in the campaign setting of Pathfinder, there are different. They're not different by stats. The stats are the same, but like story-wise, you can be of a particular ethnic group of humans.
Sure.
But they all do have the same potential for stats.
Right.
And I'll get to stat changes in a little bit when we start talking about like what should you do if you don't like these and so on.
Right. It is harmful to have this idea that different races, like that a different race has less potential for intelligence than another race. Like that is just, even if it's just in a game and it's just fantasy, it is still harmful.
Yeah. Cause like, okay, a D&D race, as you just established, Jeff, a D&D race is not the same as a race in real life. And so I'm sure there are people, I probably had this attitude at one point. There are people who will say, they shouldn't make these changes based on real world racism, because racism in the game is different, because there is like actual measurable physical differences between like an Aarakocra and a gnome or something like that. I understand that viewpoint. However, not everyone understands that viewpoint, and not everyone is 100% capable of separating the two in their mind.
Yeah, even the people who know that that is a difference, that doesn't mean that they're not going to like subconsciously put those two together.
Yeah. So if Wizards of the Coast is inadvertently, even if it's in a very small number of people, if Wizards of the Coast is inadvertently causing some people to have harmful views against their fellow man or woman because of the way that they have made their game, then it is well within Wizards of the Coast's prerogative to change that.
Yeah.
An important thing here is that Wizards of the Coast is not a public service. They are a company. They make a product. They make profit off of that product. If they think that what they are doing in the game needs to be changed, whether it is for political reasons, whether it is for monetary reasons, whether it is just because one of the employees decide they wanted to change it, I guarantee all three of those are present. I guarantee there's some political reasons in there. I guarantee there are some monetary reasons in there. I guarantee some of the employees just feel icky and want to change it. That is fully within their rights. They are allowed to do that. If you don't like it, and I'm dipping into the solution here, if you don't like it, don't play D&D, or play the D&D you've already been playing.
Yeah.
No one is going to take your books away. No one is going to force you to play an edition of D&D that has changes that you don't like. And here's the thing. Here's another little, I guess I'll just go ahead and get into what you should do if you don't like this. The game is always evolving. Yeah. Most of the time it's for the better. It's not always for the better, as I'm sure a lot of people who didn't like 4th edition will eagerly tell you at every opportunity. The game is always changing.
Yeah, heck, they're on their 5th edition.
Exactly. Oftentimes these are made for, I would say probably oftentimes they're made just because someone wanted to do something different. One of the employees was just like, hey, what if we did AC backwards for some reason? Let's do that.
Yeah. I got this cool idea. It's called THACO.
Exactly. But also, there are things that they've done that do make the game more politically correct, whether you view politically correct as being a good thing or a bad thing. Let me remind you, back in 1st and 2nd edition, males had a higher strength cap than females did.
Right.
If you played a male character, you were able to become stronger than if you played a female character.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there are people out there today who will be like, yep, that's how it should have been. Right. And I'm sorry, I don't care if you think that's how it should have been. They changed it, and they changed it for a very good reason. I'm not going to argue whether it is scientifically accurate or not. It's a good thing that they changed it.
I feel like I remember that change happening in like video games too.
Yeah.
Where like, I feel like I have the memory of playing, like starting up a new game of like, I've got a new game, and you may make your character and you choose if you want to be, a boy or a girl. Mm-hmm. And like, I remember clicking on that option and saying like, oh, the stats don't change. Cool. I can be a girl if I want. Cause like in my mind at the time, it's like, I want the best stats, or rather I want the best strength, cause I want to be the sword character or whatever. Sure. So I was like, okay, well, I definitely want to be a male then, because they get the strength bonus or whatever. But like, I feel like I've had this thought, a long time ago when playing a game, when it was like, it was made so that it doesn't matter, like if you were, man or woman, you had the same stats. I was like, oh, cool. Awesome. Good.
Yeah.
You
want to hear something that is bonkers? Are you familiar with the Harvest Moon series?
Yeah.
It's for anybody out there, it's a series of video games where you own a farm, you do farm work, and then, if you want to, you can like get married, you can have kids, you can have a pet dog, whatever.
Yeah. If anybody's familiar with Stardew Valley, it's that yes. Like it is what Stardew Valley is basically based on.
Yeah. There is one of the Harvest Moon games that I think only came out in Japan. I could be wrong. But one of the Harvest Moon games, there were two versions. There was a version you could buy where you played as a boy. There was a version you could buy where you played as a girl. If you played as the girl, if you got married, the game ended. So like, whoa. You didn't even get to play the full game if you bought the girl version, because the people who made it decided, oh, if you're a girl and you get married, you stay at home. You don't run a farm.
Right. Yeah. Your life's over now.
Yeah. And like, whether you think that is how people should behave or not, first off, screw you. But second off, can you not see how that is a bad idea for a game?
Right.
Who would buy the version of the game that necessarily gives you less game?
Right. Yeah. Oh, goodness.
Because like D&D is a fantasy. I think, Jeff, you said that earlier. Mm-hmm. If you want to play a particular character, whether that character is a certain race, is a certain gender, is a certain sexual orientation, is a certain personality, a certain anything, you should be able to play that without the game forcing you into a box. The game used to have limitations on alignment in certain classes. Paladins could only be lawful good. Bards could only be non-lawful. Monks could only be lawful. Those are great as ideas for role-playing, but ultimately they give you less options.
Yep.
Play the game that gives you more options.
Druids can only be neutral, although there's lots more options there.
Yeah. Like, if you want to play in a game if you want to run a game where all orcs are evil, okay, fine. I'm not going to stop you. Nobody's going to stop you. But like, isn't it cool if there are also some orcs that are not evil?
Yep.
What a concept.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the one weird thing about the Wizards of the Coast change is that they do still specify that certain races, such as gnolls, are still evil. But that's because gnolls, outside of Eberron at least, gnolls their history is that they're part demon. They're like spawn of Yinogu or whatever.
Right, yeah, they're fiends.
Yeah, I guess I can understand that, but personally, I still find that less interesting. I am interested in a world where it's rare, but even demons can be good. Again, super rare. It maybe like the whole universe is trying to kill them because of it, but I would prefer it if they're fiends. This one is good. Let's explore that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's always been the option of just making you can make orcs good if you want. Sure. Yeah. There's always been that option, and it's always been and it's been interesting because when you're used to orcs being the bad guys and you come across a good one, you're like, oh, this is interesting. I want to learn more about this guy. But at least in this way, it is not like it's not in print. You know, like,
Yes.
I feel like that is
Yes.
important. Like, it might not seem important, but it is important that it is not in print that this race is dumber and evil. Like,
Right.
it's like, that is just important just in general for humanity as a whole. Like, it's just better. Like, you don't have to change anything you're doing, but there is less room for people to learn that some races are different and lesser, you know, like.
Sure. There's less opportunity for people to take that the wrong way.
Right there. Thank you.
Now, one of the other changes that Wizards of the Coast has teased is that at some point soon, I don't know if it's the upcoming Tasha book, but I could be wrong. It might be. They're going to be coming out with racial options where instead of every dwarf gets a bonus to Constitution and, you know, a bonus to whatever, it's instead going to be that each race you've got like options. You can put that bonus in whatever you want. If I'm not mistaken, that's basically what Pathfinder 2nd edition does.
Yeah, well, I was going to bring that up because, like, like their backgrounds, like they get stat increasements from backgrounds. They get stat increasements from because Pathfinder 2nd edition, you have they're called ancestries, not races. Yeah, and it's called heritages, not sub races.
Sure. And if I can just interject, I guarantee that change was probably just made. It's just a semantic change. However, if a semantic change, just changing if calling it something different is going to make even one person's life a little bit better, good on them for doing it. Yeah. The person who's sitting at home and they're like, I don't want to have to call them heritages. I want to call them races. Well, then fine. Call them races if you want to. I don't care. Yeah. But if they want to put it in the book as something else, if Paizo wants to do that, go for it. Awesome. Yeah. Good for Paizo. Do what you want if you think that it will make the world better.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Right. So, like, the idea of the background giving, you know, bonuses to your abilities, like, I really like that because that kind of goes into, like, you know, it's not just what you're born as, it's also how you're raised. Like, it's like nature and nurture, you know, you are like, we are all human. We're all the same species, but we're all brought up differently in different environments and in different, you know, circumstances. Like that's what makes us different, for good or worse. So like, I like that seems to be what they're kind of going for with this new book that whatever they're putting out.
Yeah. And if you see that and you're like, oh, I don't like that at all. I want my elves to be dexterous. I want my dwarves to be hardy. I want my half-orcs to be dumb. Okay, for sure, whatever. But what you can do is when you make a dwarf, put a high stat in Constitution. When you make a half-orc, put a low stat in Intelligence. That's fine. No one is going to stop you from doing that. That's how, honestly, that's how you should have been doing it from the beginning.
Yeah.
So just having the book not say, oh, you get a penalty to Intelligence because your race is dumb. Right. That's not just, if you want an unintelligent member of that race, put a low stat in Intelligence. I've complained in the past about people wanting to make a race that is only going to be for one character concept. Like, oh, my character is half dwarf, half elf. Therefore, I should make a custom race for this. No, you just pick the stats you want and say that your character is half dwarf, half elf. If you want your stats to reflect your hardiness from being a dwarf and your dexterousness from being an elf, put a high stat in those two stats. That's all you need to do. You don't need the book's rules to tell you how your individual character should reflect their race.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I very much like how in Pathfinder, you've got several different sources for your ability scores. You like start with, I think it's like an 8 or something and everything. And then you have a few adjustments you make just on the fly. Then you have adjustments you make because of your race. And with those ones, or your ancestry rather, you choose a couple options for that. And then your background, you choose a couple options for that as well. It made me feel so much like I was building an actual person. Yeah. When I made my pirate character for the game you were running.
Right.
I think it's a lot more rules. I can understand how D&D might want to be a little bit less rules heavy, but it felt so good making that change. And if Wizards of the Coast is making that change to their game, Okay, fine. Use it or don't use it. Because again, this is the 5th version of the game.
Yep.
In a few years, we're going to have the 6th version of the game. Everyone, when they play D&D, uses the rules they like. They don't use the rules they don't like. That's just how you play the game.
Right.
If you don't like this change that Wizards of the Coast is making, play a different game or play D&D without those changes.
Yeah,
or here's an idea, play D&D with the changes and see how you like it before complaining about it.
Sure. Yeah. Just give it a try. If it turns out it's not that big of a deal, at the very least, someone's not going to misunderstand, is not going to take a -2 penalty to intelligence the wrong way,
Yeah. And is this going to change the world? Probably not. Is this going to change anybody's life? Probably not. But again, there's no reason to be against this that wouldn't also make you against every edition of D&D that's come out. Again, first edition, men were stronger than women. If you refuse to play second edition or third edition or whatever because of that change, then okay, fine. Hey, good, sticking to your principles, I guess. But the game is always changing. If Wizards of the Coast wants to make a change, even if it is to be more quote-unquote politically correct, and even if you view quote-unquote politically correct as a quote-unquote bad thing, either use it or don't use it. They're allowed to make that change because they made the game.
Right.
If you want to make your own game that does not try to be politically correct, go ahead and make it. See how many copies you sell. See who you can get to play the game with you.
It feels like a lot of effort for just to be a stick in the mud,
Yeah.
If you're, I feel, and again, like I don't want to get too hostile or political on the show, but like if this bothers you so much that you can't just get around it and just get over it or get used to it or just go back to it or just play what you were playing anyway, like you're probably tiptoeing towards being a bad person.
There is probably a reason that you need to investigate about yourself if you are getting that upset about this.
Yeah, like you need to understand, like try to figure out why it is upsetting you and figure that out, because like it's not that huge of a change.
Yeah.
And and we didn't even touch on, like, because there was one specific thing that they were changing that was much more problematic, which was the
right.
It was the
Vistani, I think.
Yeah, Vistani in the Curse of Strahd, or there was one in
Tomb of Annihilation.
Yeah, right. Because like there was one group of people that were pretty directly based on like people from the real world, and like there are a lot of cultures and stuff that are in some way or another in D&D, like different races kind of take after different real world cultures.
Right.
And like
for better and for worse.
Right. Exactly. So like, and that is itself, it can be problematic. Like, okay. My family, my dad's side is Italian, and it's like, if the evil orcs who are dumb and evil, but like all of their aesthetic and like all of their theming was all Italian, like I'd be like, okay, that doesn't seem right. That's like,
sure.
That seems mean. Like,
yeah.
So, but yeah, there's this group or this, I don't know if this was just a sub race or race, or I'm not even sure what it was it's just a group of people in the campaign setting.
Yeah. I'm not sure myself.
But they were based on a real life culture that are now being they're now being, changed to be less hurtful.
Yeah, because I guess it was kind of an unfair stereotype of that that real world culture that they based the race on, and so they've decided to rework it so that it is less based on an actual thing, less based on stereotype, and more just its own thing in general.
Right. Yeah. Yep. And I think they're even like working with people
from that culture. Yeah.
From that culture just as a guide of like, okay, please help us not be hurtful, you know?
Sure.
Like, and that's good. That's good. So like there have been a few changes that are a little bit more directly like we're really, you know, we're trying not to hurt these people.
Correct.
But in general, like the changes aren't really that big. They
really aren't.
It's just like, we know you're not born with intelligence or like any more or less like, you know, capacity for intelligence, no matter who you are. Like it's, you know, people get, you know, like that's what education's for.
Sure. And like individual people can be unintelligent, but like a family line is not unintelligent.
Right.
Not by default.
Right.
If you want your character to be unintelligent, put a low stat in intelligence. Mm-hmm. Don't rely on the book to say all members of your race are unintelligent.
Right.
So yeah, the changes they made are very slight. And if you don't like them, nobody is making you use them. So if you're getting so upset about it, try and figure out why you're getting so upset about it and think about that and figure out how to work on that. Yes, I think that Wizards of the Coast is trying to make more money. That's not a bad thing. That if they didn't have the money they had, they wouldn't still exist.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have bought TSR. They wouldn't have bought out TSR if they didn't have money and want to make more money. Mm-hmm. You know, so we wouldn't have the game as we have it if it were not for the pursuit of money.
Right.
They are probably trying to be quote unquote politically correct because not everybody views that as a bad thing.
Right.
And if you don't like it, you're not being forced to play it. You can keep playing the game as it exists right now. You can go back to first edition if you really want to.
Yeah, like you still own the book that doesn't have the revision in it.
Well, hold on. You're assuming these people paid for the book.
Oh, that's true.
Who knows?
Right. You still have the PDF downloaded.
Yeah. So if they want to make the change, they're allowed to make the change. Wait and see what you actually think of it. Like with Pathfinder, you might play it and be like, "Oh my goodness, lets me make a much more interesting character than I did previously." So yeah, I think we're done with this question. You have anything else to say, Jeff?
No, just, yeah. Okay. Just, like it's hard talking about this stuff. Like I'm trying not to, I'm trying not to say something stupid or I don't want to be unintentionally hurtful, even if it is unintentional. I don't want to do it, So I don't know. So yeah, just apologize for any bumbling I've been doing, but
no, I probably will have cut down this episode by like 40 minutes and it'll sound like a perfect string of sensible and understandable statements.
I'm sure.
So yeah, I think we're done with this. That will probably be the last time we ever, get anything close to political on this show. But I figured this could make for an interesting discussion, and at least when I got the question, it was, kind of in the zeitgeist at the time.
Right. But, stay tuned for our political news podcast.
Our next question, Jeff, who'd you vote for?
Oh God. Okay. So moving on.
Yes. All right. So that was our regular questions for today. We do still have our social media questions though. Our last question was, what is the most bizarre character concept you've actually gotten the chance to play? Do you recall what your answer was?
I can't remember. I think maybe I just referred to Kaput.
Yeah, I think that's what you said last time.
Yeah, because I don't know. And like,
it's a good character. It's an interesting character.
I don't know if I call it bizarre, but he was interesting. It was a neat idea that could just kind of popped in my head, and I'm like, oh, okay, I want to try that. That sounds great. So yeah, it's one of the more out there ideas I've had.
Sure. And like, I've got a lot of ideas that I haven't actually gotten the chance to play, as I'm sure everybody does.
Right.
But but the only one I've actually gotten the chance to play has got to be the Shoulder. It's my character that could only say the words "the shoulder" and tried to solve every problem by hitting it with his shoulder.
Yeah,
and it was harder than I thought.
Yeah, because there was some sort of murder mystery, and like you had an idea, but you could only say the shoulder. So
yeah. All right, so we just got a few responses over on Facebook. Jake F says, in Gamma World, my longest played character was Johnny the Jaguar, a former biker gang leader whose personality was downloaded into the body of a lunar gravity bike designed for recreational travel on the moon. I had an anti-gravity engine and wheels, which made about as much sense as the rest of the character concept. It was the closest I ever got to playing an Autobot, and I emulated the voice of Dr. Girlfriend from Venture Brothers. There is a lot in that paragraph.
Yeah, my jaw dropped, and then I realized, oh, right, we did say most bizarre, didn't we?
Yeah, that is what we said.
Okay, all right, hold on, I gotta strap in here for the rest of them then.
Well, the next one, oh my goodness, this next one is going to blow your mind, how wild and insane this idea is. This is from Ela M on Facebook. Mm-hmm. A human that only needs 8 hours of rest to feel fully recharged.
Oh, good. Wow.
It's a good one.
Very good.
Right there. That's everybody on Facebook. Over on Reddit, we got 2. One was from Pruno. Our entire party are cats, Tabaxi, from the musical.
Oh, God.
Playing Artificer named Professor Mittens, who wishes to be the most jellical cat.
Oh, God.
Yep.
Wait, Gabe.
Yeah.
There's a listener out there who doesn't know what a jellical cat is.
And that's fine, Jeff.
That's okay. It's fine. We're okay with that.
Yes. There was one other on Reddit, and that was from Alistar the Minotaur. He said, Klingons, do they count? And of course, he's referring to the heart zombies from our Dawn of Worlds game. And I told him no, because he didn't actually get a chance to play them.
Well, sure.
So whenever we have that other question, he can come back in with Klingons.
Yeah.
Over on Twitter, I think we just got one. Oh boy, what is this name? Voivode Kohutek? Voivode K? I hope I'm saying that something close to right.
Okay.
Says, Gnome Gunsmith Artificer in a weird Western setting. I was on my way to having a giant eagle mount when the game collapsed.
Oh.
That's how it goes.
Yeah. Right before you get the cool... right before you level up and get the cool ability that you wanted the whole time, that's when the campaign goes under.
Yeah. Over on Discord, eThompson03 says, you've read this Funeral Pyre before, but it was a Gnome Paladin Knight of the Chalice. Can't remember if it was 3rd or 4th edition. He was supposed to be super strong, but as a gnome, he was physically limited, but determined up until he was picked up by some tentacle monster and was eaten. I feel that. Next up, Stiltskin Kupo 84 says, and this is actually pretty long, so I'm gonna cut out some of it. Bastion Bloodmire, the Minotaur. His maternal family line came from a proud kingdom of dwarven royalty who gave a princess bride in marriage to the Minotaur Og-Ur in return for saving their kingdom from a vast army of ogres, orcs, and goblins. But there is one sect of the Church of Moradin based on the island of Ur that embodies all of the family loyalty of the dwarven tradition across dwarven and Minotaur lineages. Bastion grew up in this sect, but ultimately became a rune priest instead of a cleric of Moradin. He is a stubborn individual whose mind needs answers and closure on the true events of one of his ancestors' death before he can commit his heart to the worship of any one deity. As a co-founder and member of the Union of Divine Casters, Bastion takes his job seriously, accepting the duties and rights that working party healers have voted into the standard UDC contract. So he's a cleric union member that is half dwarf, half Minotaur.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, that makes sense. Dustin says, my buddy once ran a homebrew game set in the far-flung future where people could upload their consciousness to any body with a cortical stack implant. I played a B-rank reality TV star who resided in the body of an octopus. He had 2 cameras following him at all times, and his name was Adam. He had a little trademark symbol, but he said that the sound effect for that would be schwa.
Schwa.
So his name was Adam. F.A. Miller says, my brother is running a homebrew game where I play a bard with the race of Slay Beggy. They are like humans, but have been taken over by the chaotic magic of the Feywild, which has significantly shortened their lifespan. The most bizarre thing about the race is they can absorb magical attacks to heal themselves or lash it back out until their next turn with even more damage. And then one more, Collins B says, Chimney Sweep Tom, featured in a Far Past Funeral Pyre, a crippled child newsie whose flaw was that he was a sympathetic fainter and would fall unconscious whenever anyone in his presence did. No surprise that he died.
Oh.
It's pretty good.
Oh, no.
All right, so that was our last social media question. Our next social media question is, have you ever heard or used a fantasy insult in a game? So, talking like if you're in a game where there's like a derogatory name for mages or something. I think I want to say when we were playing with Chris.
Dang.
He was playing a character that was a spellcaster, but was trying to act like he wasn't a spellcaster. And he would, before it was revealed that he was, he would use the phrase like, oh, I ain't no hand waver.
Oh, sure. or there was the campaign where I was playing a Warforged, not an Eberron, and you had an NPC call me the damn statue.
Sure. That works. So yeah, I'm curious. I think there was a Reddit thread or something that people were asking for fantasy insults, and so that got me thinking. Like, I wonder if any of our listeners have had fantasy insults in their games. So yeah, hopefully we'll get some responses. That could be fun, I suppose.
Yep.
Could also be awful.
Yeah,
we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll censor it where needed.
Sure. That'll do it for our questions for this week. But before we close out, let's wind down a little bit. Let's take a deep breath. Let's remember those who have come before us, who have given their lives to try and make the world a better place, as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. Our funeral pyre this week comes from Life's a Pity on Reddit. And they said, man dies from heart attack after carrying the party for 14 levels. A friend's character was the linchpin of the group and could always be relied on when the chips were down, performing heroic feats such as throwing a juvenile Bahir off a tower. Then one day he went to 0 hit points and the party couldn't get to him quickly and he just failed 3 death saves in a row, rolling under a 5 each time. So we joke that his heart finally gave out. So I guess let's raise a glass in memory of this character from Life's a Pity story, where they remind us, you can't do it all yourself, I guess.
Yeah.
Clink. All right, that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the funeral pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. You can join the discussion on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Reddit, we're on our Interparty Discord, we're on Twitter at InPartyConflict. Check those out for our weekly social media questions. If you answer them, your answers might end up on the show. You can find us on the podcatcher of your choice, or on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you get podcasts. Please leave us a rating, leave us a review, subscribe, or just tell a friend about us. If you'd like to support the show monetarily, you can check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. We have a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is a YouTube channel where you can watch us play video games, and then you can also join us on twitch.tv/FriendQuest Live on November 7th for the Extra Life fundraiser.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you'd like to head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict, we have a short survey you can take about our show, what you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hackers RPG. So Jeff, until next time,
look behind you, a 3-headed monkey.
Where?